Hey, welcome back, Ram fans. Mark from Rams Up here. Gonna share some draft content this episode, and I'm gonna do something I haven't done before. I'm gonna run a bunch of mock drafts, only running it through to the 26th pick. And the reason I'm gonna do this is I want to get a real realistic feel of who will be there at 26, as realistic as we can expect from a simulator. Anyways, two different simulators I'll be using, and I'll run a bunch of them, and we'll kind of collect some data here. Now, the reason I want to do this is, we mock players to the Rams and ESPN, NFL.com, CBS Sports, all these different sites mocking different players to the Rams and other teams, and it's all kind of guesswork right now, right? So I thought the best way to really get a gauge of who might be there at 26. Let's run a bunch of these and see if we get some different results and what players are consistently there. And then I'm going to give you an idea who I might pick. And I'm going to follow up on what I argued for last time around, last episode. I'm not going to move off of number 26, maybe a couple spots up at the most. And I'm going to draft a player that's going to help us this year. So that would exclude, for example, a quarterback, potentially offensive tackle as well. I'm not interested in defensive tackle. I know a lot of folks, a lot of Ram fans have commented on the channel, the YouTube channel, to go ahead and draft a defensive tackle. I think we're pretty set there, especially after signing Poona Ford. So, there's some positions I'm not interested in drafting at number 26. If the objective is to get to the Super Bowl this year, I want an impact player, and I focused on 4 different positions, and we'll get to that in a second. First, it is episode 697. We're almost there. We're almost to 700, and I'm going to talk about a player who wore number 97 real briefly. Had a very brief career for the Rams, and that is Darrell Scott, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. And he was drafted by the Rams in the 4th round of the 2009 draft, I should say. Played 3 years for the Rams, had 5 starts, ended up with 54 tackles, 0 sacks, and then he was cut before the 2012 season. And why am I talking about him? I like to talk about all these Rams, even the ones that didn't really have impactful careers. And, to be honest with you, I was all in on the Rams during that period. Oh, man, it was a pretty painful time. I don't really remember Darrell Scott. And he was obviously, a rotational player along that defensive line. But I don't really recall him. But, hey, that's why we talk about these guys. Darrell Scott, 4th round pick out of Clemson. And, it's a little early to talk about another 97, Michael Hoyt. Let's let that percolate a little bit. His career with the Rams, we'll talk about him. Maybe we'll talk about him episode 797. How about that? So what else before we get on to these mock drafts? I wanted to share this stat my special assistant shared with me. Major League Baseball kicking off. It's been a pretty exciting season so far. Some teams just tearing it up, including the Dodgers, of course, and the Padres, both undefeated, 15-0. The NL West is just tearing it up. But interesting stat here, a Vegas stat odds that I'm going to speak to here. The Braves 0-7. A lot of that due to their losses to the Dodgers there, a walk-off home run in the last matchup. The Braves 0-7, and they were one of the favorites to win that division. They still have a 33% chance of winning their division. They're 0-7. And then there's the Padres, 7-0, and their odds to win the division, 5%. So, man, Padres are in a tough spot, but man, Dodgers can't take them lightly. They're a very good baseball team, and the games between these two teams are going to be electric, especially the ones in San Diego. Man, these Padre fans are all in. And I was on a train the other day The Padres had an afternoon game, and I didn't give it much thought. I got on this coaster train down in San Diego, and the game had just ended a little while before, packed with Padres fans. And man, I was thinking, if I had thought ahead, I would have worn a Dodger shirt. That would have went over well. Train was packed, almost standing room only. Man, those Padre fans are something else. They love their baseball team. So before we get into these drafts, let's rehash the guys I am kind of keying on. And the wide receiver group, there's 4 wide receivers that are going to go in the first round, I believe. McMillan, Egbuka, Golden, and Burden. And one of these guys, possibly 2, are going to slip to 26, I think. We'll see. And then there's the tight end, Loveland. I originally had Warren on here, but yeah, that's not going to happen, right? That's not going to happen. I included him because it'd be interesting to see if the Rams are willing to move up for him, but that's not part of this episode, this segment. Who is going to be there at 26 or thereabouts, and Loveland very well could be. And then there's the 2 cornerbacks, 2 very different cornerbacks, Will Johnson and Barron. And I did some preliminary looks at this, and Will Johnson probably won't be there. Barron possibly. They could both be gone. One of them could be there, and if it is one of them, it would be Barron. And after that, there's some good cornerbacks, but I don't know if they're worthy of 26. Maybe the Rams will think otherwise. But I think the Rams are more likely going to go offense in this first round. And then there's the linebacker Campbell, and he's a guy that I've been focused on for a while. Probably of all these guys, the most likely to be there at 26, along with one of the receivers. We just don't know which one. So let's kick off this mock draft. We are going to run it on the NFL mock draft database first. We'll run a bunch of them on this site, and we'll run it through to number 26, see who's still left, see if any of the guys we like are still left. I have this one set on slow speed. We probably will pick it up on the ensuing ones. The first one, I'm going to run it on slow speed so we can watch this unfold. I'll kick this off, and we can follow along there, see if the guys we're interested in come off the board. And there goes Will Johnson, the cornerback. And hoping some of these guys are left. Matthew Golden and Loveland are both off the board. So this is not going our way so far. Egbuka, Tyler Warren after Loveland, and that is a possibility. Loveland and Warren, from an NFL perspective, I think are rated really closely. And I'm thinking there are some teams that like Loveland more, actually, but I'd prefer Warren. So here we are. We are at the 26th pick, and we have 2 guys that are still available that were on our original list, Barron and Campbell. Now, the knock on Barron is he's smallish, but man, he is a playmaker. He is a dynamic player. Wherever he ends up, it's going to be a good day for that team. And then there's Campbell. Which one is going to improve this defense? I think I'd lean towards Barron here at number 26. I know I've seen some Rams content makers pumping up Malachi Starks. I just think our safety room is pretty solid. Starks, if he was selected here, who's going to lose playing time? Cam Kinchins. Certainly not going to be Quentin Lake. Cameron Curl. You'll find a way to get a guy like Starks on the field, but in this scenario, I'm taking Barron. I could lean towards Campbell, and in a different approach here, we might consider Josh Simmons, an offensive tackle. Would not start this year though. And there's some defensive linemen as well and some edge rushers. But I'm going to make Barron the pick here, and doesn't really matter. We don't have to watch this the rest of this round play out. It just did. So we'll bounce to the next draft. We'll restart it. And the first scenario, we got Barron and Campbell still on the board of our 8 guys, and we selected Barron, Will Johnson. Will Johnson is starting to look a little bit like a pipe dream to get him in the first round at number 26 overall. So I'm going to set this to 1 round, and I set it to fast speed to pick things up a little bit. We'll enter the draft room, and we will kick this off. This is scenario number 2. We'll see who is there, and it's much more difficult to follow along at the top there, but we'll rehash it. Who is available? In this scenario, Loveland is there, and it appears that Will Johnson's going to be off the board every time. Let's see, Barron's off the board. All the wide receivers we like, I'm pretty sure all the wide receivers we like are off the board. Let's go check just to be sure. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Egbuka and Burden are both there. They're rated as second-round picks. Now, would I take one of these wide receivers, or would I take Loveland? I am taking Colston Loveland. So we had 2 of the wide receivers that we weren't too interested in there still on the board. I prefer Golden. Egbuka and Burden would, if the Rams obviously like them more than Golden, sure, they might select one of those guys here. But I think Sean McVay is selecting Colston Loveland here. So that's going to be the pick. So we have the cornerback Barron, and in the second example, Barron was off the board, but Loveland was there. So let's set this up one more time for fast and 1 round. We'll enter the draft room. And what we're trying to determine here is a trend as far as who's going to be available at number 26. We'll let this run to number 26 real quickly, and who is available, rejecting all trades. In this example, Golden and Loveland are both there. And I'm going to check and see Burden is also there. I'll take Golden over Burden. And who else? It's just Golden and Loveland and Burden of those guys that we talked about at the beginning here. Now, the dilemma with wide receiver is we're not desperate at the wide receiver position, but I think a wide receiver like Golden is going to help this team make a Super Bowl run, augmenting what we already have there. Nakua and Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington. I think Golden could very well end up being our number 3 wide receiver. Battling Tutu Atwell for playing time. And if someone gets banged up, and, Puka Nakua gets banged up a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and make the selection Golden in this example. We'll get an A+ there. Just watch the tape, or just read a little bit about this guy. He just rises to the occasion. So we got 3 different scenarios there. We'll restart this one more time. And we're going to set it to fast speed, 1 round, the LA Rams, and we will enter the draft room. And I will summarize all the scenarios here of as far as who is available in each of these drafts. I got to keep a better eye on those wide receivers. I didn't realize Egbuka and Burden were actually out of the top 30 ratings-wise. I thought they were higher. So in this example, we have some more choices. Campbell is there, Golden, and Loveland. Now, what would I do? I'd probably take Golden over Campbell. Campbell would really improve this defense. Campbell's going to get more likely to get snaps right away with this defense. And we'll check the wide receivers again. And Egbuka and Burden are there. And the one thing we have to remember about wide receivers is it's a really deep wide receiver draft, and we're going to have some draft experts on this coming week, and we're going to ask them that question. Do you pass on a guy like Golden or Egbuka in the first round, knowing that you can get a really good receiver in the third round even? Or is there that much separation between Golden and these other guys? But, you know, inquiring minds want to know. But I think if I was predicting what the Rams would do, they would take Golden. I'm going to mix things up. I'm going to take this defense to another level and take Campbell. And again, I understand. I know just all of us know how the Rams feel about linebackers. Be exciting to have a guy that can really pursue sideline to sideline, adding him to this defense, putting him alongside Omar Spates. I'd be on board with that. I don't expect that to happen, but let's do another one here. See if we see a trend here. And that's the real end goal here, to get a realistic idea of who is going to be there using this simulator. We'll use another one in a few moments here. We'll switch over to the second simulator and see if we get similar results. And we're going to start this. And, you know, what are we learning here so far? Golden has slipped a couple times. Campbell has as well. Barron once. Loveland once. And this is very similar. Loveland is there as well. So we have more choices here. I'm not going to mess up here again and see who is. Looks like Egbuka is gone. Burden and Golden are there. McMillan has not fallen a single time to number 26, nor has Will Johnson. But three of the guys we talked about, Campbell, Golden, and Loveland, as well as Burden. And so what would you do in this scenario? You got three choices, Campbell, Golden, and Loveland. The Campbell, the higher rated player, going to get on the field more right away. Loveland becomes the heir apparent to Tyler Higbee. Which one is going to help us make a Super Bowl run the most? And again, you can get good wide receivers late. You can get some good tight ends late. But, you know, Sean McVay loves his tight ends, doesn't he? And people have banged on me for taking tight ends in the first round. But, hey, we're just experimenting here. It's really about who's available. We see who is. And I'll just make Loveland the selection. What I'll do is I'll tally up at the end here. At the end of this segment, how many each of these guys, how often these 8 players fell to number 26. I think we've pretty much ruled out 2 of them already that are not going to be there. Will Johnson and McMillan, the Arizona wide receiver, and Barron, not likely either, perhaps. So we're going to do another one here. Gathering data, this is what you're doing. And, you know, if you're familiar with how this stuff works, you know, the more times you run this, you know, the higher percentage of accuracy you have. And let's see, did I miss anything here? 1 round only. And we will enter the draft room and get this kicked off. And so not so much, don't get on my case for the actual selections here, just playing around. What we're trying to determine is who is available. Realistically, based on these simulators, who will be available. And here we have Loveland, the wide receivers. Looks like Golden is gone. Egbuka and Burden are both there, as we suspected. Loveland, is Campbell gone? Campbell is gone. And, you know, by the way, I'm really growing more and more fond of the UCLA linebacker Carson Schwessinger, likely second round pick. So I don't know how the Rams land him unless he somehow dropped into the third round. But we have Loveland, and that's about it of the, not that I'm rolling out these wide receivers, Egbuka and Burden. Who knows what Sean McVay would do. but Barron and Johnson off the board, and 3 of the wide receivers we liked as well. So just go ahead and draft Loveland. Not that it matters. And let's get on to the next one. Seeing a trend here a little bit of a trend as far as who will be available and who will not. We'll get the Rams selected first round. We'll set it to fast, and we will enter the draft room, and we will start the draft. And we will reject some trades here. And here we have Golden and Loveland. So it seems like Golden is there about half the time. Loveland there more than half the time. Egbuka is there, and is Burden gone in this example? So Burden went earlier. I think that's the earliest he has gone. When did he go? There he is. Where did he go? McMillan is gone. Burden, there he is. He's been selected. Just double checking there. So we go back to the linebacker. Campbell is gone. Barron and Johnson are gone. I think we can cross Johnson off our wish list if we're sticking at 26 or thereabouts. So we get Golden and Loveland. Take your pick. Let's just go ahead and restart this so we don't have to. Well, I'll go ahead and make a selection. I'll select Golden here just to be consistent. Loading the draft results, and let's go restart this once again. We'll do a few more here before we switch over to the other database, the other simulator. We're going 1 round for the Rams. We're going to set it on fast, and we're going to enter the draft room, and we are going to kick it off. So Johnson, we can future mock drafts, future predictions, we will cross Will Johnson off our list. If we want Will Johnson, we're going to have to trade up for him, and I don't know if the Rams would do that, trade up for a cornerback. Past history tells us no. In this draft, this may be the most dire example. Loveland is gone, apparently. Egbuka is there, and Burden is not. So we really have Egbuka down there at the 34th ranked player, 33rd ranked player, and the linebacker Campbell. That is it. Barron is gone. The other cornerback I like. The wide receivers, Golden, McMillan, and who's the third guy I'm talking about here? Burden is gone. I'm sorry, Egbuka is there, but Burden, McMillan, and Golden are gone. Really stuck is a bad way of putting it. That's why you identify 8 guys you like. We'll go ahead and draft Campbell. And they like that pick for the Rams. Now, would the Rams be stuck on these positions that I am stuck on? Who knows? But I stand by my call. No interior offensive lineman for a Super Bowl run. No offensive tackle for a Super Bowl run. No safety. No edge rusher. No quarterback. No running back. It's just how I feel, and I think I can defend that. Feel free to tell me how wrong I am in the comments. I welcome that. Just keep it polite if you can. We're all Ram fans here. We can disagree and be classy about it. So let's start this one. I'll do 2 more. I'll do this one and 1 more before we switch over to the other database, the other simulator, and reject some trades here. So who do we have? Campbell is there. Matthew Golden is there. Let's check the wide receiver board to see. It's easier to do it this way. McMillan is gone. The other 3 wide receivers are there. Golden, Egbuka, and Burden. The Loveland is gone. Tyler Warren, of course, is as well. So we go back to the availability list, and we basically have Campbell, Golden, and Egbuka and Burden. And the draft, if for those of you listening audio only, the board does give us suggestions, and they're kind of thinking alongside me, the linebacker and the wide receiver. Take your pick, mix it up here. I'll take Golden. Again, I think linebacker, a bigger need until you consider that the Rams, when was the last time they drafted a linebacker in the first round? And their defenses generally have been pretty darn good. We'll do one more on this database before switching over. Select the Rams, one round, and fast enter the draft room, and off we go again. We'll start this up. And so looks like Campbell is there most often. The wide receivers, McMillan has not been available, so he is going before these other guys. Egbuka, Golden, and Burden, kind of a mix of who's available there. And in this case, are all four wide receivers gone? No, Egbuka and Burden are there. Golden and McMillan are gone. And so the top choices are Campbell and Loveland. And again, board's thinking alongside of me, linebacker, tight end. So it's the suggestions have been linebacker, tight end, and wide receiver. They also recommend selecting these wide receivers and a cornerback. So the simulator is in agreement with me as far as the positions go, and I'll go ahead and select the highest rated player in this example. And we'll switch over to the other board here. Let's do one more here. One more, just out of curiosity. We'll restart this one more time. And I think we're collecting some valuable data as far as this board goes. It'll be interesting to see if on the other board does McMillan or Will Johnson ever drop to 26. I'd really be surprised based on this. Lance Zierlein called Will Johnson a boomer bust prospect. I don't really like that labeling. Are you saying he's either going to be awesome or he could just be horrible, or are they saying that he's just not going to live up to his draft position? I still don't like that designation that Lance Zierlein uses. Go ahead and start this draft. We'll bounce over to the other one after this. One last shot on the NFL mock draft database. I haven't even been looking at these trade offers. Not part of this exercise. So we have Campbell there. The wide receivers, McMillan and Golden, are both gone. Egbuka and Burden are both there. Burden has dropped a little bit. I'm pretty sure he was rated much higher previously. On the tight end board, it appears that Loveland is gone. I think he's been there less than half the time. So we have choices. The choices it's really got to be Campbell in this scenario, unless the Rams really love Egbuka or Burden. Who knows? Now, the one argument for linebacker here is not as deep at that position as wide receiver. You can get a really good wide receiver in the third round. If you look at who's available here, Jaden Higgins, Trey Harris, the Stanford, a Canadian Stanford wide receiver, Ayamaner. Probably messed up that name. Everybody loves the wide receiver out of TCU, and the speedster out of Texas, Isaiah Bond, although not quite as fast as he expected to be. You can go really deep here. Savion Williams out of TCU. You're not even out of the top 100, and look at all those wide receivers there: Burden, Higgins, Harris. Man, it just goes on. Jalen Noel, a guy I don't know much about at this time. Jalen Royals out of Utah State, forgot about him. Savion Williams, Xavier Restrepo, Tez Johnson, a little too small for my liking. Even into the low 100s, mid 100s, some decent receivers there. Ty Felton, the 140th ranked player, wide receiver out of Maryland. So back to this overall list, though, we will go ahead and select Campbell once again. Don't expect that to happen. I think I would love to see them add Campbell, but I have a feeling if that were to happen, the Rams would most likely trade back. That's what I'm thinking. But I'd rather they drafted an impact player. I'd rather they drafted Campbell or moved up for Will Johnson or McMillan, a wide receiver they love, Tyler Warren, an impact player that's going to help us get to the Super Bowl, sacrificing some later picks. So there you have it. What we're going to do next, and I'll summarize this all at the end, who was there, which players were there most often, and who we can scratch off our list. Let's get into the other database. This is the Pro Football Network's mock draft database. Collect some more data here. I'm going to go ahead and put it on fast. We're doing one round for the Rams. We'll enter the solo draft, and we'll see how it goes here. I'm not as familiar with this simulator, as I am with others, as the previous one. Haven't used it as much, but just getting some additional data here. So who do they have? Here you can filter by position, by offense and defense, special teams. On offense, they have Egbuka and Burden similarly rated as the other database. Looks like Campbell is off the board. Let's see if we can check this. When did Campbell go? Barron and Campbell both went. Loveland went, all just out of reach of the Rams. So if we go back to this, to the all list, it'd have to be, now I'd make an argument for drafting an offensive tackle like Simmons or a defensive tackle. For this exercise, we're looking for players that will help us make a Super Bowl run. Nolan would obviously, Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, would get into the rotation for sure. Simmons, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State, would probably not start, right? But he would be a backup, some insurance, and potentially Rob Havenstein's eventual replacement. But I got to drop all the way down to 29 here and select Egbuka to help us out this year. So that's what I'll do. So we got one draft in the books on this database, and it did not work out as well for us. Let's do another one, and we're going to draft for the Rams. We'll set it on fast speed, one round, enter the solo draft, and we'll see if it works out the same. So far we are seeing Golden not dropping to us, and we may have seen this again in this case. Let's go through these picks here on the left and find our guys. Will Johnson and McMillan both long gone, and Matthew Golden selected number 12 overall. Tyler Warren is off the board. Colston Loveland. Barron is off the board. Egbuka. So this board is not giving us as favorable results, and it's going to have to be Campbell or Burden, and I will go ahead and make the selection Campbell. So I don't know which simulator is more reasonable, more realistic, and we'll decide here at the end here. I will collect all the data and see which players are likely going to drop to the Rams at 26. This is our third run on this one, and Walter Nolan is there again. Man, if you're looking for a defensive tackle, this draft might work out great for you. And the only guys on our board of the 8 players that we talked about, Egbuka and Burden. And I'll go ahead and draft Egbuka. So this board is not yielding as many options for the Rams as the previous board. That is for sure. We have not seen Loveland fall to the Rams here at all. I don't think we've seen Golden, Wright, Barron, Johnson. long gone. McMillan, not happening. Now, interesting situation here. Jalen Walker is still on the board. So we have two. Now, I didn't consider Walker. He is the better player. He's more of a dynamic player. Can come off the edge, get to the quarterback. Well, I don't know if that's realistic. I'd certainly be tempted to take Walker. Campbell and Barron are both there. Walter Nolan has been there consistently as the 26th ranked player, the Rams drafting 26. So, again, not a player that's going to. Would he help this rotation? Absolutely. Are there other positions I'd be more interested in improving? Definitely. So it would either be Walker, Campbell, or Barron here. And since this is the first time, it doesn't really matter. We're just collecting data on who's available and who isn't. We will go with Barron and restart this real quickly. And we will set this next one on fast. LA Rams, 1 round, will re-enter the draft. This draft is running, and we'll see if this is to our liking or not. Who is available? Campbell is there once again, as is Walter Nolan. The highest rated player is the safety out of South Carolina, Emmanuel. Probably pronounced that one wrong. And he is supposedly rising up the draft boards. He's a really good safety, going to help some team out immediately. Again, our top four guys, and I'm not even talking about our undrafted free agent, that we all love. So I'm going to pass on the safety, and I'll just go ahead and draft Campbell. Igbuka is still there, but Golden is gone. Will Johnson, Barron, McMillan. Go ahead and draft Campbell. And yes, I'm stumbling to think of the name of our undrafted rookie free agent, Jalen. That's his last name. I can't think of it right now. And you know how it is when you're trying really hard to think of someone's last name, it becomes impossible to do it in this situation. Shout it out, put it in the comments for me. I'll look it up afterwards. Feeling really stupid right now. Here we go. One more LA Rams mock draft, running it to number 26. And who's on the board here? The defensive tackle, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. That would be tempting. The safety out of South Carolina. None of our other guys are there. Loveland isn't there. Golden and McMillan off the board. Will Johnson has consistently been gone. So that's a pipe dream for the Rams. We have the two wide receivers, Igbuka and Burden. It might be a good situation for the Rams to have either a traded up or trade back. We'll go ahead and take Igbuka to get this thing rolling. We'll restart this draft and we'll set it on fast. Select the Rams, enter the draft. So this one seems to be a little bit quicker setting up here. And we'll run it through once more. I'm trying to keep you audio only folks up to speed here. And I apologize if I have not. Now here, first time, McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, is available. He's a 10th ranked player, and he is dropped, and I'm assuming he's dropped as I would have expected some other wide receivers to go instead of him. Is that not the case? Have no wide receivers been selected? And, I understand Travis Hunter could very well end up playing some wide receiver, but he's a cornerback on these boards. So in this example, a Golden has been selected, and he is the only wide receiver to have been selected. And I think McMillan has been pushed back because the defensive tackle, Nolan, has been selected. Barron, the cornerback, has been selected. The linebacker, Campbell, Loveland. So that has caused McMillan to fall And in this example, I would be all over that. The Rams will gladly select McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. That's the first time we've seen him available on any of these drafts. Not likely, but a good data point there for us. Let's do a few more here. We have it set for 1 round fast speed for the Los Angeles Rams. We'll enter this draft and we'll see what happens. Certainly seeing some trends, and this simulator is behaving slightly different. Jalen McCullough, that's who I was talking about. Jalen McCullough. My apologies to Jalen. So here we have it. The Rams are on the board, and Jalen Walker, the Georgia linebacker, is available once again, as is Campbell. The wide receivers of note, Egbuka and Burden, both the cornerbacks we are interested in are gone, as are the tight ends. So wasn't really factoring in Walker as a guy that could be available. And then you have Campbell and the 2 receivers. So what the heck, we'll go ahead and select Jalen Walker. I'll add him to the presentation at the end. We'll see how often he comes up. Didn't come up at all that I can remember on the other database. So we're going to set this to fast speed for the Rams once again. We'll enter this draft. Do a few more here. And who is available for the Rams at 26 this time around on the Pro Football Network simulator? So Jalen Walker is not available. The highest rated player is Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon. Campbell, the linebacker, is there once again. Walter Nolan popping up a lot. And then Egbuka and Burden. Colston Loveland, I don't think he showed up once on this board, right, at 26. So we'll take the linebacker. And I know there are Ram fans that are going to be shouting at the screen, take the defensive tackle, take the edge rusher out of Boston College, even Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, another defensive tackle, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, another very good defensive tackle. But I'll go ahead and select the linebacker. Again, not arguing for that pick, more or less just gauging who's available. So let's figure this out together. One more, well, we'll probably do one more time around here though. Fast, LA Rams, 1 round, entering the solo draft. We'll get to the Rams pick really quick here. This is a really fast way to collect data. Put it on fast speed and just do 1 round. And who is available? Campbell's there again, as is Nolan, Egbuka, and Burden. The highest rated player is the safety out of South Carolina, Emanwari. So who are we taking in this example? Again, no Colston Loveland, no Matthew Golden, no McMillan. Jalen Walker did not fall. He wasn't on our original list anyways. Will Johnson and Barron, we pretty much forget about on this board. That is one trend, one difference here. We saw Barron fall at least once and Loveland a few times, not on this board. So we'll draft the linebacker again. Again, it's somewhat irrelevant for this exercise. Let's do another one. Fast speed, 1 round. The LA Rams enter the draft, and off we go once again. And who is available here? The South Carolina safety popping up a lot. Now, Colston Loveland is off the board, as is. When did the linebacker Campbell went really early, 14th to the Colts in this example. Barron, the cornerback out of Texas, went 15th overall. Malachi Starks, he's a guy that some Ram fans like. Matthew Golden went 17th. And Nolan and Harmon, the 2 defensive tackles, came off the board, as did Kelvin Banks, an offensive tackle. And even Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle, is off the board. So who's left? Egbuka and Burden are the only guys available on our board. This would definitely be a trade back scenario. This might have been the worst result, although, hey, you know what? Egbuka, not a bad pick here. The problem with selecting Egbuka here, I wouldn't call it a reach. A tad early for him. You can get really good receivers third, fourth round. So this would be quite a dilemma for the Rams. They may have been wishing they had traded up if this scenario unfolds, or they're desperately trying to trade back. But we'll select Egbuka. How many more do you want to do here? How about 3 more? Fast speed, LA Rams enter the draft. And if you're following on the podcast, I will summarize at the end as best I can. Hopefully you're able to follow along. If not, jump over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@RamsUpPodcast. And yes, that is a change. It used to be LA Rams Up. And if you, as long as you're not getting to the site via a bookmark, you should be okay. If you have a site bookmark, you need to update it. So this draft, look who's there. McMillan, the wide receiver. First time we have seen him. And then Burden is there as well. Did Egbuka go before McMillan? Apparently, Barron is off the board. Yes, Egbuka went 25th overall. McMillan, the 10th ranked prospect overall, still on the board. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Again, the wide receiver is a bit of a mixed bag here. I think there's at least four, possibly 6 first-round worthy wide receivers, and it's just a matter of which one teams like. And in this scenario, they did not favor McMillan. The teams that wanted wide receivers passed on him for others, and the Rams are the beneficiaries of that, and they draft the Polynesian wide receiver. We could pair him up with Puka Nacua. Wouldn't that be slick? And we'll do, let's do 2 more, and I think we'll have enough data to, we'll do some data collection after that and post the results. 2 more, second to last on the Pro Football Network's mock draft database. And hey, let me know which one of these simulators you think is better after watching this. And I know it's kind of difficult to follow, trying to do this in an entertaining way, but also sharing as much information as I can. It's a bit of a balance you got to deal with here. So this one, Campbell, the linebacker, is the highest rated player. Nolan is back on the board for us, the defensive tackle. Got an edge rusher, Scorton out of Texas A&M. And then Egbuka, Burden, some other guys. James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee. So I'm going to go ahead and take the linebacker. No Colston Loveland, no Barron, no Will Johnson, no Matthew Golden. So quite the bummer there. Barron went 21st overall. Golden went 23rd. So I think I've selected Campbell more than any other player. And again, it's not necessarily about that. It's about who's available. And this will prime us for some future mock drafts, perhaps. If we see Will Johnson or Barron fall into the Rams, we may just want to bypass that scenario and pick someone else because it's not looking likely if these simulators are accurate. Now, this one, jumping off the screen here, is the fact that I think the only guys left on our original 8 here are Egbuka and Burden. Barron went 21st. Campbell went 20th. Jalen Walker went 1 pick before him. And then you got Matthew Golden went 16th. Loveland went 14th, right after Tyler Warren. So McMillan went 10th, right about where he should, I think. So this is a bit of a dilemma. Again, a scenario where I think we trade back or wish we had traded up, one or the other. In this example, I'll take Egbuka. You know what? I'm going to do one more. I didn't like that one. That was kind of a bummer result. Let's end on a good note with some players we really like. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and run a real quick 7-round mock draft. And so we'll see how everything plays out. Just for kicks here. And did Colston Loveland fall to the Rams in this one? Ikbuka and Pierce. So this is not a bad scenario. I know tight ends in the first round. Are you kidding me? Well, tell that to Sean McVay, a guy that has tried to trade up for tight ends in 2 different drafts, and we can get the wide receiver later. Wide receiver is not really a critical need for this offense. I just want another guy to help us make a Super Bowl run if anyone gets banged up. Cornerback remains a concern, and Ravel, the East Carolina cornerback, would be an option here. I think you'd want to trade back a little bit to try to grab him. So let's take the tight end, and we'll roll it through all the way to the 3rd round. No more trading, standing pat. We'll see how this works out. I think we're going to look at a wide receiver or a cornerback next, and we'll see what's available. Jackson Dart still there. Wow. And there is going to be some, let's look at the defense, see if we can filter for some cornerbacks here. Darian Strong out of Virginia Tech, Zy Alexander out of LSU. We can get one of those guys later, even Kobe Bryant out of Kansas. Let's go back to the offense and look at the wide receivers. Still some guys on the board that'll be there later, I think. Let's go back to overall, and maybe we should just take, if we could get Jackson Dart in the 3rd round, that'd be awesome, but I don't think that's realistic. And Chris Paul is there, so we address linebacker, the defensive side, and we already addressed tight end, so I'm going to go ahead and draft the linebacker. And Cameron Williams, offensive tackle, would be a good add here if you're looking for depth, and we need it. So I'll go ahead and draft the linebacker. So we have addressed tight end and linebacker so far, and we are on the 101st pick. Jackson Dart is still there. I would select him here, but I don't think that's realistic. Let's go look at the wide receivers and the cornerbacks. The DJ Giddens he's a running back. Hold on. Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Xavier Restrepo, Savion Williams, Ty Felton. And if we go to the cornerbacks, is it more critical that we get a cornerback at this time? And I think it is. I'm going to go ahead and take Dorian Strong. We're going to go back to back here, actually. So, no, we're not. That's the Lions up next. That's later on in the draft. So we'll take Dorian Strong here. And now let's look at the wide receivers. And we will take, let's see, we got Isaiah Tesla. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Scott Richmond really likes him. And we're getting a little bit late in this draft, aren't we? 127 overall. Now, Ricky White, a gentleman on the YouTube channel, has been pumping him up. Really good special teams player, team captain, wide receiver, blocked 4 punts in college. So, interesting guy, could be used in a lot of different ways. I'm going to go with the wide receiver from Arkansas here. And just for kicks, if Jackson Dart's still on the board, that'd be, of course he isn't. But that man, him slipping like he did, I don't see that happening. He could very well go in the 1st round to the Saints. I've seen a few scenarios where the Saints trade up into the end of the 1st round with the Chiefs or Eagles, forget who, and make that pick. Let's look at my picks here real quickly. So we got the tight end, the linebacker, the cornerback, and a wide receiver. Probably could have gone with a wide receiver a little bit earlier. So what else should we be looking at here? We could be looking at a running back, an edge rusher, backup tackle. I'm just not thrilled on drafting an offensive tackle at this point in the draft and counting on him being the guy for you. So, yeah, I don't know. So, who are we going to take here? A lot of names that I'm not familiar with on this particular board right now. We got the running back, Jaden Blue. Let's look at the running backs. Hunter is a guy the Rams have met with. Hey, let's go ahead and make that pick. Another guy known for his work ethic, commitment to the game, all the things you like to hear. We have back-to-back picks here. So maybe let's go look at defense specifically. Cam Jackson, defensive tackle out of Florida. Tim Smith out of Alabama. Cody Lindenberg out of Minnesota. Lindenberg is a guy I think you will, he's a linebacker. He's a guy that you will, you actually love this guy, kind of old school linebacker. Let's filter for defensive tackle. No, let's filter for edge. How about that? Yeah, I don't know what to do here at this point in the draft. Let's look at my picks once more. We got 3 offense and 2 defense. We don't have anybody in the trenches yet. So let's look at the trenches and let's look at offensive tackle. I'm just going to take the highest rated offensive tackle and move on here. I don't know what we're going to do with our backups there. Rams certainly must have a plan, but I don't know what it is. And our next pick, we're going to select the highest rated defensive tackle, Cam Jackson. And our last pick, what have we not hit? We have not hit edge, safety, edge or safety. We have not hit yet. Interior offensive line. Maybe we should look there. I mean, the fact that we have Bo Limmer apparently as a future backup. I don't know if we're going to draft any interior offensive linemen at all. The quarterbacks, Rourke there out of Indiana. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and select Curtis Rourke. If he's there this late in the draft, that's pretty good value. Competing with Stetson Bennett. I don't know if he's a long-term solution, but what the heck? Let's get this moving along here. I've been a long draft segment, and we'll see how this draft turned out. Colston Loveland, Chris Paul, Dorian Strong, the wide receiver out of Arkansas. The running back the Rams have met with, Jarquez Hunter. Offensive tackle out of Alabama A&M, Carson Vincent. And a defensive tackle out of Florida, Cam Jackson. And then the quarterback out of Indiana, Curtis Rourke. And he's not one of my, I was originally kind of high on Rourke, but after checking in on a couple of other quarterbacks that would be available in the 3rd round or so, potentially kind of cooled on Rourke. So there you have it. Let's get to the data collection part of this and see how it all worked out. Who was available most often? Who was not available? What is the likelihood of the guys I like, and hopefully some of you like, being there at number 26? So let's take a look at it. The final data. What did we learn from this? Well, a few things. Number 1, Will Johnson will not be there. I think we all kind of knew that. You know, there's not a lot of cornerbacks that are worthy of 1st-round picks, period. And the ones that are, Will Johnson and Barron, probably not going to be there. I got Barron at the bottom of this chart. For those of you on the podcast audio only, I'll just work it from top to bottom to begin with. Egbuka, the wide receiver, was 10 out of 11, available 10 out of 11 times on the National Football League mock draft database, Pro Football Network, 12 out of 15, for a total of 22 out of 26 drafts. So Egbuka, very likely going to be there. And, you know, he is rated, you know, in the 30s as far as overall prospects. Luther Burden, similar numbers, 8 out of 11, and 13 out of 15 for a total of 21. So another guy rated very closely to Egbuka. Burden has dropped in on most of the draft boards I've seen And I think a lot of it has to do with his drop in production from 2023 to 2024. Then there's a linebacker, Campbell, 7 out of 11 and 7 out of 15, so 14 out of 26 drafts. So maybe slightly more than a 50% chance he'll be available. And then we start to get a drop off. Colston Loveland, the tight end, 7 out of 11 on the NFL mock draft database, just 1 out of 15. And this is probably the biggest disparity. Well, him and Golden, we'll talk about him in a second. So the National Football League NFL mock draft database, Loveland, likely going to be there. On the Pro Football Network database simulator, no, he will not. And Golden, very similar, 5 out of 11 and 0 out of 15. He did not make it to the 26th pick a single time on Pro Football Network's. Now, Jalen Walker, a guy that I thought would be in that Will Johnson category, no way he's reaching numbers 26. And that was the case on all 11 of the NFL mock draft simulations on the Pro Football Network. He did reach the Rams 2 times, and that would be, quite the windfall for the Rams if they were able to grab him. And then McMillan, the Arizona wide receiver, 0 out of 11 on the NFL mock draft database. He reached the Rams twice on Pro Football Network's simulator, and then Barron 1 time in each. So what this is telling me is that Loveland probably going to have to move up to get him. Same with Golden. Walker and McMillan going to be pretty pricey, and Barron pretty pricey to go up and get them. The same with Will Johnson, who did not reach the Rams at all. And that's probably the biggest takeaway. A reality check for me and the rest of us, maybe no way Will Johnson is there. Now, if the Rams are interested in Egbuka, Burden, or Campbell, very good chance one of them is going to be there. The problem is, do you take a wide receiver that's really at the 30th ranked, 32nd ranked player overall? Do you take someone else, maybe a position that's not an immediate, that I don't think is an immediate need, a Super Bowl push-worthy pick, when you can get some pretty good wide receivers in the 3rd, 4th round. And then there's Campbell. I think in my scenarios, I would have no problem picking Campbell and elevating this defense, taking it up 1 notch. And then there's the cornerback problem. So I'm starting to think the Rams maybe need to trade up, consider trading back, and then maybe back up. I don't know, sitting at 26, going to have limited options for selecting a player that's going to really help this team immediately, unless they just get really, really lucky. So a lot of data there, a lot of takeaways, and hopefully we learned something, because it took a lot to put this together, and I hope you enjoyed that. We'll have some more draft content coming up. This was a data collection segment, and learned a few things. I think we did, out here from Rams Up.